What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Wager Alarm live stream. It's Friday, baby. I'm Howard Bender. With me here, Craig Mish. Time to get down and dirty, tell you what college picks we're making, what Westgate Super Contest picks we're making. Craig.
Hey, that's me.
Right, well, I'm going to call you Chris for the duration of this live stream, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll call you Harry.
You can call me Harry. That's fine. I usually, growing up, I answered to anything with an H anyway. I'm live here from the Fantasy Alarm studio. Sorry about that, but you know what? Hey, hi guys.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Right. We'll get one for Wager Alarm here. I promise.
Yeah, put that one back of me, back of my jerseys.
There you go. We could definitely do that.
By the way, before we get started, just one quick thing. As you know, this week, Brad Ziegler retired. I don't know if you caught that. I know that there's a lot of baseball news, football news, but this is my in honor of Brad Ziegler's retirement. This is my Ziegler shirt that I'm wearing for the show today. So congratulations on a great career for Brad Ziegler. This is the first TV stuff I did or streaming stuff I did since then. So just want to mention that. Now we can roll.
Now we can roll. Absolutely. I got some saves out of Brad Ziegler.
We all did. 10 years. I mean, 2008 to 2018, 100+ saves, man.
We didn't get any strikeouts out of him, but we got some saves.
Yeah, we could give him crap for that.
We'll definitely give him crap. Let's have him on the live stream, and we'll just give him crap. We'll be like, hey, Brad.
I think he would do it, sure.
What's up with more career saves than career strikeouts? What's that all about?
Ridiculous, if you ask me. Ridiculous.
All right, well, let's see. Guys, on the Tuesday live stream, Craig and I discussed a couple of the college games that we were looking at, some of the lines that were going back and forth. Craig, let's start with college here first, obviously. Are we still on those same games that we discussed on Tuesday? Or are we moving on to some bigger, better things?
Yeah, those games were the big games. I think they're important for people to watch. They're not necessarily games that, those really sharp college games are very tough to bet on. And the lines, Howard, don't move that much. When you're looking in college football, you're looking for edges. You're looking for lines that are going to move. Michigan is -10 against Wisconsin, still kind of the same thing. The Gators, -7.5 at Vanderbilt. The Washington-Oregon game, which is probably the biggest game on Saturday in college football, Washington is now -3.5. I'm not surprised there. I think Washington is the better team. But there will be some people tempted to take Oregon at home where they play very well. So my picks are, as always, well, not always, but usually are going to be of the lesser popular variety. But when we do our Tuesday live stream, I think it's important to note some of the big games in college football. And pretty much from now until the end of the season, every week is like an elimination week where if a team loses, it kind of eliminates them from the college football championship. We mentioned last week that I went to Biloxi, Mississippi, and spent some time at the Hard Rock there. The interesting line that I got was 40-1 on West Virginia, which I have right here. Yeah. You can see my ticket there. So if West Virginia somehow – now understand this. I don't think West Virginia has a shot to win the national championship. I don't think so. Because if they do get in the playoff, they're going to be the 4 seed. Make no mistake about it. Alabama, I don't see them losing any game this year. But it could happen in the championship. But they're going to be the 1 seed. And if Alabama played West Virginia on a neutral site, which they will, if they get to that point, Alabama's going to be probably 16, 17-point favorites. So I'm going to have to find a way to hedge that game and bet against West Virginia at that point. My bet would cash 1,000, so I'd probably put half somewhere else just to kind of make it worth it. But the reasoning there was that they have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Their schedule isn't that difficult. They have a matchup with Texas coming up. If they win that one and then win their conference championship, I think it's smooth sailing. So you're just looking for value at this point, and it was one of those higher numbers on the board with a team ranked in the top 10. That's why I did it.
Which is understandable. I mean, once you bring in the aspect of hedging the game, that if these two actually end up meeting at some point, yes, initially you're lighting some money on fire here. But if you are able to hedge it and do it, later on like that, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people miss. It's not just straight up picking this game, or I'm just going to say, West Virginia at 40-1 is going to be great for the national championship. It's about using that as a building block, and I think that that's a great point to make there. And thank you, Craig. 40-1, what'd you put down on there? $20?
Not even a lot on this one. I made a lot of bigger bets that weekend. This is only $25 to win 1,000.
There you go. You know what? For West Virginia to upset everybody and for you to get it through $1,000.
I'd say it's highly unlikely because Alabama's in the way. Alabama is the biggest favorite in college football to win a championship in the history of college football at this moment, this early in the season on October 12th, ever in college football history. It's almost not even worth betting. And to think that they still have to run through the SEC championship game, they still have to play LSU, they still have to play that game against Auburn every year that's very difficult. And they're just a prohibitive favorite to win. And you'll never see that in the NFL. You'll never see a 2-1 at this point in the NFL. And Alabama is like not even money anymore. It's crazy. So that's just look. Their quarterback is fantastic. They just through these years they've had great defenses, great playmakers. You know all of them. You see all those running backs that they've had in the NFL. Kamara and Drake and Henry. I mean, there's a million of them. Julio Jones. It's like every player they have is great. Every defensive player they have.
2 of the 4 players you just mentioned right there absolutely suck right now.
In the NFL, but in college they were good. And so
Henry is trash. Nobody likes the Drake.
But they were part of a running back group in college. No, he was on Georgia. Yeah. Anyway, so the point that I'm trying to make is you never hear about an Alabama quarterback doing anything. And this is the first time that they actually have one, and he's great. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see, once we get to that point. This is the really good time of college football. We've gotten through those dog first month of September and August, and now we got some really good matchups. So, yeah, the game that I'll definitely be watching is Washington-Oregon. Oregon's got probably the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Their quarterback, Justin Herbert's going to be number 1 overall. So worth watching both from reality, fantasy, gambling, just to see this kid play. This would be the biggest win in his career. He missed a lot of games last year with injury.
Or you could just watch him on the New York Giants next year. Absolutely. Either way.
Giants first overall pick, yeah? I don't think so.
I think they trade up for it.
It's interesting. Last night, a lot of the what we would call the sharp bettors were taking the Giants. A lot of the people thought the Giants would win. And as I've talked about on this live stream, you have to identify at the beginning of the season the teams that you can't predict. Not the teams that are good or the teams that are bad, because I honestly think the Giants are still going to win 4 or 5 games because Eli, look at last week against Carolina. It took a 63-yard field goal for Carolina at home to beat the Giants. The NFL's a week-to-week league. The Giants now next week are going to be like a great betting option because they're going to be getting so many points. It looked so bad this past week. But that's just a team the whole season you got to stay away from unless you're getting like crazy points because they're so unpredictable. One game, great Eli for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Another game, he looks terrible. It's a mess there, no doubt. But as bettors, we don't care. If we're getting like 14 points on the road against a division opponent, you take the points.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Last night, so that was good.
Trying to see if there's a game where we might end up seeing like a little bit of fun action, but it's just this schedule looks trashy. The Giants look trashy. Let's go back to college here. I'm not ready to talk NFL yet. I was talking NFL all this afternoon here. And listen, we've been killing it with the college picks here. You've been killing it with the college picks here.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it definitely has. So let's talk about where we're at right now. And it looks like you're hanging out in the Midwest, man. You're liking the University of Iowa, huh? Hawkeye fan here?
Yeah, we're gonna take Iowa as the first game. The only thing I don't like about this game is the line was 5.5. Now it's down to 4. So the money is coming in on Indiana. But Iowa is a notoriously pretty good team. Never a great team. Never a team at home when you're laying big points. They usually don't cover that number. This year they're 4-0 as a favorite. Their only loss this season was to Wisconsin. And then again, you look at the opponent. Indiana's just beaten no one all season long. It's like everybody's one win on the schedule is Rutgers this year. Everyone beats Rutgers, and they don't beat anybody else. Indiana's turned it over 6 times in the last 3 games. What Iowa does, which is different than a lot of other teams in the country, is that they usually don't have like these really fast playmakers. As you know, in the Midwest, like they have these big burly guys who are running backs or wide receivers. A lot of people feel like they may have the best 2 tight ends in the country. And they've been amazing. In fact, I think they've had like 450 yards, better than any NFL tight end in fantasy. They've been both great. So what the quarterback does is he basically like releases one of the tight ends. The other guy stays and blocks. And then the next down, the other guy goes and he stays back. It's a really wild scheme. And Indiana hasn't been great at covering guys over the middle this year. So I like the line at 5. I even like it more at 4. The first play from college this week is going to be Iowa -4 on the road at Indiana.
All right, I can dig that one. Second one, where are we going? We're staying in the old I don't know. Are these teams even in the Big Ten anymore? Do we call this the Big Ten?
Yeah, it's still the Big Ten.
Is it still the Big Ten? And Illinois is still in the Big Ten?
Barely. Illinois has been awful the last few years. Their head coach of Illinois, I don't know if you know who it is, Howard. Any clue who the head coach of Illinois is?
No, I have zero clue who the head coach is for Illinois.
His name is Lovie Smith.
Is that where Lovie is now?
Lovie Smith. And the offensive coordinator's name is Rod Smith.
Ooh, Rod Smith, the ex-player. There's something going on with your mic, dude. Check it out.
My mic?
There you go. Now you're better.
Okay.
So Lovie Smith is the head coach of Illinois. Rod Smith, the former wide receiver?
He's the offensive coordinator, correct.
He's the offensive coordinator for Illinois.
Now,
tell me why I should love this.
Okay, well, you shouldn't love it. But you shouldn't love anything. So Illinois, Lovie Smith has not done a good job there. But for the first time this year, it looks like the team has a possibility of getting into a bowl game, which would be huge. Six wins. You go 6-5 or 6-6. Ironically, you get into a bowl. There's so many teams, and we'll do a whole bowl thing for everyone later in December. We'll pick all the bowl games. Illinois covered 3 of the last 5 games they played in this year. They run the ball a lot, so this is a pace game where Illinois is going to need to stay on the field, just continue to run the ball. They're one of the top rushing teams in the country, which is crazy for a team like that. Purdue is really good. But they haven't won consecutive road games since 2012. That's a really long time. Illinois' quarterback, by the way, missed the 2 games they lost this year. And you know how I talk about when the quarterback is out, it's a huge difference maker. They lost by like 50 to Penn State without him. He's back. I think he'll be the difference in this one. I don't know if Illinois will win the game. But again, you're getting 10.5 points at home. If Illinois scores first, all of a sudden you're plus 17 with a team that likes to run, and that's a recipe for success. Now, if a team is getting 10 at home, they have no defense, and all they do is throw, I'm not going to go for that. I mean, that game could be 51-30. But pace of game is something that I look at here, and the Illini do run the ball better than just about any team in the country. If they don't fall behind big, Howard, that's always an if. We had one of those games earlier in the season where it didn't happen, and we lost with Minnesota against Maryland. But if Illinois can control the clock here and keep the game close, they will not come from behind and win. It's going to be very hard. But if they can keep the game close, maybe jump off to a 7-3 lead after a quarter, we're going to win this one. So I'm going to take the 10.5 points in Illinois and play 2.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Last but not least, we're going to go back to the over-under world here. And
Got to do it.
Okay.
It's been winning. Why? As a bettor, you don't change what you're doing if it's working. There's no reason to change. You got to keep going back to it over and over again. So the last 2 weeks, I just keep pounding how the SEC games, a lot of them keep going under the line. A lot of them. The Gators picked off LSU with no time left and almost no time left and ran it in for a touchdown to make that game go over. That was an under. But it ended up going over. We didn't bet that one. We had the Mississippi State Auburn under, which came in. So the total in this one, Florida, Vanderbilt. So these are my Gators here. 50.5 is the total. Vanderbilt's played 6 games this season, and they've gone under the total 5 times out of 6 games. The Gators have played great defense all season long. They've played 6 games. They've gone under 4 of the 6 times they've played this year. And the other one, again, should have been an under last week as well. They played 2 years ago in the same spot at Vanderbilt, and the score was 13-6. This is just another SEC drag it type game. Alabama's offense is great. Their total this week is 70. Mississippi scores a lot of points. There are other teams in the SEC that score and that give up a lot of points. These 2 teams are not those teams. Under 50.5, we're going to see if we can go SEC under 3 weeks in a row. So the 3 picks this week are going to be Iowa -4, Illinois +10.5, and then under 50.5, Florida Vanderbilt.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. Feeling 3-0 coming our way. We'll say hi to our sponsor here, BetQL, guys. You guys want an edge over Vegas this season? Use BetQL. BetQL is the only app you need to make smarter bets. With BetQL, you can track line movement, see which team the public backs, and discover trending bets of the day, all right from your mobile device. If you want to try it for free this weekend, well, just use the promo code ALARM. Go to fantasyalarm.com/BetQL. Download the app, sign in, then use the promo code ALARM. Get a 3-day free trial. Again, fantasyalarm.com/BetQL. So, all right. So we're good for the college picks here. Iowa, Illinois, and the under on the Florida Vandy game. Some interesting picks here for the Super Contest. We're going to flip it over to NFL here.
Here we go.
Some real interesting stuff here. I mean, we are not touching. If you guys saw the live stream on Tuesday, we are not going back to this Bears Miami game. I gave Craig 6.5 points as opposed to the 3.5 points Westgate was given, because I just think the Bears are just going to annihilate them. But we're not touching that one here. Why aren't we touching it? Because we got some other interesting plays here, Craig. Where do you want to start?
Well, first of all, that line is now 3.5. The Bears are up to 3.5. In the contest, though, it ends up being 3. So I do feel good about a number of the plays again that we have picked this week, and part of the reason why is that, and it really, if you listened on the show Tuesday or you watched the live stream, I mean, couldn't deliver it to you any better. These lines and the games that we like, all of them are with us on this one. Meaning that we'll start off with Pittsburgh, who we're going to take again. We're going to take the Steelers. I think that you and I both agree that as poor as the Steelers played in the first few games of the season, that wasn't really a good representation of who they are. They may not be a 10-win team, but I don't think the Steelers are going 5-11. And again, you kind of throw away a week-to-week thing. The Bengals have looked good all season, but they've won so many lucky games. Like, do you give the Bengals credit for winning that game against Miami last week when Tannehill's throwing the ball off the helmet of the other guy and they're up 17-0 and they blow it? I don't know. So Pittsburgh getting 2.5, Howard, in this one. Right now the line is 1.5. So this is a value line that we'd be getting, and you always want to get value on a play if you like the play, and we do like Pittsburgh, Howard. So that's the first play we're going to go with, the Steelers plus 2.5.
Yeah, this is a nice one here. You know, obviously the fantasy community is all over Big Ben on the road and what does he do? And I mean, his numbers actually against Cincinnati really aren't that terrible. Like, they're not like his normal road awful numbers there. So I do like this. And yeah, I do see, that's the thing. Like, Cincinnati's defense, I think, again, the fantasy community rejoiced last week against Miami as the defense scored twice and helped everybody that way. But let's face facts. The defense here for the Bengals are giving up points. And so with the firepower that the Steelers have, whether it's James Conner, whether it's Big Ben, whether it's Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, there are enough weapons here to keep this game super close that even if the Bengals were to win, I think it's like a last-second game-winning field goal that gives them the advantage. So I like taking the points here with the Steelers against the Bengals. I do think the Steelers can win this game outright. I think that if the Bengals do win it, that it's barely by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, and the line is 1.5 now, so there's not as much value as there was before, certainly. So that's our first pick. Last week we took the Jets, which was the big pick over Denver, and it turned out couldn't have worked out any better. So no,
it really couldn't have. It really couldn't have, because I was texting you the entire. Oh, I can't believe this. This is the worst. Somehow the Jets are going to blow it.
It was a great spot for them. They're a terrible team. A couple of defenders I saw are going to be out for them again this week. The bottom line is that you go right back against what you saw last week. The world right now is probably thinking, oh, maybe the Jets aren't that bad. They are. Andrew Luck has played really well. Their defense has played really well. They can't run, but they'll have Hilton back for this game. I thought they played pretty well against New England, all things considered. They had a chance to get back in that game.
I don't think they don't have Hilton back for this game.
They don't? He's not back?
I don't think so, no.
Am I wrong? All right, forget it. Let's take the Jets. No, I'm just kidding.
No, because I'm all in it with you here.
So who are the 3 wide receivers on the Colts this week for them? Rodgers, is he going to have to play?
Chester Rogers is going to come out of the slot. You're going to see what's his name? Ryan Grant on the outside, on one side, and on the other side.
Ebron like 18 times?
Well, Ebron will come out of the slot if he's healthy. Ebron's got like an array of injuries going to him. Right? He's like a shin and a knee and a hip and a rib. And Zach Pascal will be the guy on the outside. But here's the thing, though. Trumaine Johnson is out for the Jets.
Right, he was out last week too.
Buster Screen is out for the Jets this week. He had a concussion last week. He gave up all that yardage to Demaryius Thomas, and then left the game hurt. So you've got Parry Nickerson, who's working out of the slot now. He's the slot corner, and Rashard Robinson, who had a good preseason but was stuck down in the buried on the depth chart there. So you've got two, for all intents and purposes, you got two of the most inexperienced corner guys out there on the field in the Jets secondary. Morris Claiborne, all Luck needs to do is just stay away from Claiborne's side of the field, and he's going to pick this defense apart. He really is. And that's why, it's like Colts 2.5 points. Colts win this one outright. And
I think the Colts win it. Yeah, I think the Colts win and it's not close. Luck has looked way better than I thought that he was going to look this season. It's just one of those things where I thought the Jets were a really great spot. Jets should not be favored in any game this season, but this is a reaction to last week of beating Denver, who's not very good. And I got to tell you, if that game was like 20-17, Jets kick a late field goal, this line would be a pick 'em. Right now, the Colts are only getting 2, so the money is coming in on the Colts. If you're playing online with Pittsburgh or Indianapolis, it would have been better to do it earlier in the week. You could have gotten 3 by buying a half a point. If you still want to be ambitious and buy a point on the Colts, you can. But for our purposes in the Super Contest, we're going back-to-back dogs here with the first 2 picks, Colts and Steelers.
All right, let's keep going, man. Who's the next dog that we're going with? How about Cleveland?
Yeah, this line is now a pick 'em. The Browns, this is like a watershed type game for them, I think, because I think they were a little bit lucky last week beating Cleveland. Everything fell right for them. It was a low-scoring game. Ravens on the road are not as good as they are at home, but this is kind of the game that puts Cleveland in a position to maybe even make a run at the playoffs. I don't ever remember them being a favorite in a game in years. They're not now. All the money came on the Chargers. So now it's just a pick 'em. But I got to tell you, I'm feeling the Browns here at home. The weather probably won't be great in Cleveland that they're saying. The Chargers are not as good as a road team as they are a home team. And for many other reasons, I just think that the mojo is with the Browns right now. And I think the line does speak to taking the home team. We've had a lot of success betting home dogs in football this year. They're hitting almost 60% of the time. So at a pick 'em or a dog situation, I'm going to take the Browns.
All right. Well, before we cruise through and go with another dog, why don't we tell them about the one favorite we are taking this week, Craig?
The one favorite is Minnesota. Did we agree on that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, listen,
you're a little against it. It's okay.
It's not that I'm against it. I do worry about the 10-point spread here, only because I don't think the Cardinals are as bad as everybody says they are. And that worked out for me last week when I said let's take the Cardinals and the points. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is that, in this case here, you're also looking at Larry Fitzgerald coming back to Minnesota where he grew up, with what could be the last game he ever plays in Minnesota as a professional football player. But all that narrative aside there, the thing about it is that when you take a lousy team and you send them off to Minnesota took for granted that time when the Bills came in and crushed them, that to this point here, the reason I agreed on this pick was because
of that.
They couldn't possibly screw this up twice.
That's the key. That is the key. That's the key to this one. All you got to do is look. That these coaches have that quote unquote. Now it's online, but they have the bulletin board material.
Yeah.
Like what they're saying this week. They're showing those players that video against Buffalo from a couple of weeks ago. I think
that should be like mandatory film session every single day. Watch this
for this game. Yeah. I think they'll be very motivated. If Howard, and here's the thing again, look at the line. If the game was supposed to be closer, then Minnesota should be 8 or 8.5 or even 9. Like this is 10. This is telling you that Minnesota's supposed to win by a lot. If it's less than that, like 8-9, I probably take the Cardinals in this spot because it's like, whoa, it looks like that they want money on both sides. That's really a chance the Cardinals could cover this thing. I don't think they're giving the Cardinals much of a chance. Cousins, I think, over the last couple of weeks has come alive. Their defense has been beat up, but I think this is a really good spot for them. And I just think it's a blowout. It's not my favorite pick, but I do think that the Vikings blow out the Cardinals.
I know I have a hard time. There's a lot of stuff working against it. The Cardinals have only given up one passing touchdown to a wide receiver this year.
Yeah, their defense is pretty good.
It's crazy, right? It's kind of crazy. Either way,
how about Dalvin Cook? What's his status for this game?
He is going to play. He put in a full practice, and that's another thing really working in Minnesota's favor here is that if Dalvin Cook can just grind it out, Arizona's run defense is atrocious. And they've given up the most rushing yards per game. They've allowed 8 rushing touchdowns on the year, which is the highest given up in the NFL right now. There's a lot of things working against the Cardinals defensively. And again, like I said, the Vikings couldn't possibly botch this a second time,
I don't
right?
think so. I don't think so.
To lose to Buffalo and Arizona at home in the same season.
A lot of people have talked about this week, and I've heard it from a number of people. And I'm not big on teasers, but if you do a 2-team teaser and you get 6 points on each side, you could tease Minnesota down to 4, Minnesota -4, and you could also tease Houston against Buffalo down to 3.5. So they just barely have to win those 2 games. I think a lot of people feel like both of those games are going to be blowouts. Again, the Bills coming off that game at Minnesota got annihilated by Green Bay the next week. And you wonder if this week the Bills get annihilated by the Texans. I don't know. We're not doing that game, but
we are not doing that game. I did write about that game in the New York Post this week.
The New York Post.
I had to, just about whether or not this was like a fool's gold kind of thing. Are we looking at a situation where you can use because the Houston secondary is terrible, absolutely terrible. Their defense is solid.
Their running game is terrible too. It's very hard to see Houston beating anybody by 10, but
that's the thing.
But the line is there, and it's like it's like telling you, if Houston was -7, you'd be like, wow, that Vegas is telling you should take Buffalo in this spot. But once it climbs that high, it's like, ugh.
In my heart, I'm taking the Bills in the points. I won't put any money on it, but in my heart, I'll say that. Let's go with our final game here.
This is the easiest one, honestly, because I don't care if it's going to win or lose, but as a bettor, this is what you're supposed to do.
Lay it out, baby. Lay it out.
In the NFL, whenever a team is playing their 3rd straight road game, you fade them and you bet against them and you move on. That's what you do. And the stats over the last 20 years, 30 years of football will indicate that you're going to win at least 60% of the time betting against that team that plays that 3rd straight road game. It's just a fact. You can go back and look. Even back to last year, teams that were on their 3rd straight road game went 3-5. That's 60%. That's 40% wins, 40% winning, 60% losing. 2 of the teams that won, Minnesota, New England. So this week, Baltimore's on the road. It's their 3rd straight game. And they're playing at Tennessee. I certainly do not love Tennessee at all. But in what world does Tennessee not a home favorite against Baltimore? It is a little weird, I got to say. Like, the line does say to take Baltimore. I mean, I know Tennessee's not good, Howard. They're like 8-8, They just had a bad game last week against Buffalo. Again, you throw away what you saw last week. Just forget about it. Tennessee, as somebody who does this, and you're supposed to follow that is one trend that you got to keep to. We're going to take Tennessee plus the 2.5. It went to 3. Now it's back to 2.5. So you can buy a 0.5 point online. And then we'll see how the Rams end up doing, Howard, because they're the next team that's getting ready to approach that 3-game road trip. They're not there yet, but this is the first time this year that we've seen that. So Tennessee is the 5th play.
All right. Beautiful. I love it. I really do like it a lot. And I was talking about it today on the fantasy show on Sirius XM. Talking about Corey Davis with the game-tying touchdown, the Joe Flacco pick that leads to the Ryan Suckup game-winning field goal. Booyah.
Hey, by the way, last week, I wasn't paying that close attention. The one reason why I hate betting against Baltimore always, I don't do it a lot, but sometimes it has to be done, is because did Tucker miss an easy field goal last week? Do you remember
He didn't miss it. It wasn't an easy one. I think it was like a 52-yarder.
Oh, it was a 52-yarder. Okay, because going against that team is always very dangerous because he doesn't miss, like, ever. And so it's like, the game is 7-3, they're losing, and there's 30 seconds left in the half. They get to the 40, the guy kicks a field goal. All of a sudden, they're covering the first half and then maybe the game. I always worry about that going against them because he, to me, is a sure. Vinatieri will be in the Hall of Fame when he's done as a kicker, and then Tucker will be too. Tucker may be the best kicker that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like, he just never misses. So But this is it's a good spot for the Titans. 3 straight road games, and as a bettor, you know that, and when it comes, you got to lay in against it. Any edge that you could possibly get to get closer to 60%, you do it. So that's our 5th pick, Howard. The Tennessee Titans plus 2.5 at the Westgate.
Beautiful, beautiful, guys. Going to give a shout out to my bookie. Remember, who you're betting on, just as important as who you're betting with. That's why we've partnered with mybookie.ag. They are your best bet. All right, they've been in business for years. Great reviews online. Their mobile site, super easy, super easy. Visit fantasyalarm.com/mybookie. Use the promo code alarm, and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. So again, fantasyalarm.com/mybookie. All right, use the promo code alarm. They'll match you dollar for dollar. All right, Craig. So time is ticking away here. Just to sum it all up, college picks: Iowa -4, or is it 4.5?
No, we got 4, unless Impemba tells me differently. I saw 4.
Nope. Iowa -4 over Indiana. Illinois plus 10.5 over Purdue.
Yep.
We're taking the under in the Florida Vanderbilt game. And then for the NFL, we like the Vikings. We like the Browns getting points. We like the Colts getting points. We like the Steelers getting points. And we love the Tennessee Titans getting the points, going against the Baltimore Ravens, who are on the road for the 3rd straight week.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, going back to the BetQL app for a minute. You know, you said the promo code is ALARM to get that 3-day trial, right? The free 3-day trial. And so one of the games that they have, when you upgrade and to get all of the things that they provide to you, is they give you, they star the games, 1 star being the lowest, 5-star being the highest. And all season long, I check all the time who they like. And obviously I used it last week. You saw that in Biloxi. They have a 5-star. You have to use the trial to get it. I don't want to give it away here on the live stream because I want people to go download it. And again, it's free. You're giving the code. I haven't seen them have a 5-star college game all year. They have one tomorrow, so you may want to check it out. Yeah, 5. I mean, it's the strongest game that they've had all year, at least according to the app.
Love it, love it. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here. Wager Alarm live stream. Craig and I will be back to recap all the Week 6 action from the NFL, Week 7 from the college football world, Tuesday night. 7 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. Craig, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're gonna be okay this week again. I like the picks.
I'll take it. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. Thanks for tuning into the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll catch you next time.